June 26, 2020, 6:35 a.m., Reform Avenue, Mexico City. A police convoy enters Loma Chapel Tepic. Grenades, high-powered rifles. The driver dies instantly. A second bodyguard dies. One civilian woman dies. The target takes 3 bullets, survives. The ambush team knew the route, the time. Positioned a public works truck to block the intersection before arrival. 25 to 28 men. Investigators would later confirm the attack required intelligence on movements that were not publicly disclosed. By 6 years later, the target would become Mexico's Secretary of Security, and the man who ordered this attack would die in his custody. Miss the button? Go ahead, subscribe now so you don't forget later. The man inside that vehicle, Omar Garcia Harris, Mexico City Police Chief. The organization that ordered his assassination, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Henry, CJNG. The man running CJNG, Necio Ruben Eligera Cervantes, Eleno. By 2020, investigators faced a problem. Every agency hunting him had the same intelligence gap. No surveillance footage, no confirmed sightings since 2000. In over a decade as the most wanted man in the Western Hemisphere, no surveillance camera in Mexico ever captured his face. Investigators faced a problem. He didn't exist in any database. The DEA offered $15 million for information leading to his arrest, one of the largest bounties in American law enforcement history. But bounties only work if someone can find the target. For over a decade, no one could. Intelligence tracked his movements to Jalisco, Michoacan, Quima, Narit. But investigators knew something else. Before Eleno became invisible, before CJNG existed, he made one decision that taught him how to stay hidden. He joined the police force. Investigators eventually traced Elmeno's ability to evade capture back to 3 points in his history. Each one taught him a different survival skill. The 1st September 1992 Imperial Bar, the San Francisco's Tenderloin District. Federal agents arrested Enzio Ruben Oera Cervantes and his brother Abraham on drug trafficking charges. 5 ounces of heroin, $9,500. The buyers had paid in clean bills stacked in sequential serial numbers. Necio told Abraham, "These men are cops. Walk away." 3 weeks later, both brothers were in custody. Abraham had 2 felony convictions. A third meant life. Federal agents offered Necio a deal. Testify against Abraham. Walk free. He refused. Pleaded guilty. Took the full weight, 5 years. In over 3 decades of cartel operations, Elmeno never once cooperated with authorities. Not during arrest, not during interrogation, not even to save himself. 28 years later, investigators would encounter the same silence. Authorities had no idea that refusal to cooperate was the least significant thing he learned. The second point, 1997, deported to Mexico, age 31. Banned from the U.S. for life, he joined the police force. Cabo Corrientes, Tomatan Jaliscoco, uniform, bad, gun. DEA Special Agent Kyle. My later identified this as the critical period. Elena was a rehabilitating. He was cataloging every weakness in the system. Which officers took bribes? Which judges looked the other way? How evidence vanished? How investigations died? 2 years of intelligence gathering while wearing a badge. Investigators later linked CJNG's police corruption methods back to this period. The surveillance evasion techniques, nor the jurisdictional gap exploitation. The third point, 2010, Nacho Cartel killed. Oscar Valencia arrested. Millennial cartel structure fractured. Instead of fighting for scraps, Elmano partnered with the Gonzalez Valencia money laundering network. His wife's family built CJNG Cartel Jalisco Nueva Henry. What made this different? Decentralized command structure. Regional cells operated with significant autonomy. No single arrest could collapse the organization. By design, over the next decade, this structure would prove nearly impossible to penetrate. September 2011, 35 corpses on a Veracruz highway. Rush hour message spray painted. CJNG Mencho didn't claim credit. While El Chapo gave interviews to Sean Penn, Mencho stayed invisible. No interviews, no photographs, no appearances. By 2013, Mexican intelligence faced a tactical problem. Standard cartel hunting methods relied on intercepting communications, tracking movements, identifying lieutenants. Your CJNG structure made all 3 nearly impossible. May 2015, the Mexican army attempted a targeted operation in Jalisco. Intelligence suggested Elmeno was in the area. A helicopter circles above farmland. 6 soldiers inside scanning for cartel activity. Below, CJNG fighters with a rocket-propelled grenade. 2:47 p.m. The weapon fires. The helicopter explodes midair. All 6 soldiers die before the wreckage hits ground. First documented cartel attack on Mexican military aircraft. Yet the operation failed. Eleno vanished. Over the next 6 weeks, CJNG killed 24 police officers across western Mexico. Not in firefights, in executions, targeted, deliberate. Authorities launched the biggest manhunt in Mexican history. First strategy, intercept communications. CJNG used encrypted apps, rotated phones weekly, communicated through couriers. Dead end. But the attempt revealed something. CJNG's communication discipline was military grade. Someone had trained them. Second strategy, saw track financial flows. The Gonzales Valencia network laundered money through shell companies across 12 countries. Authorities believed they were close. One account in Panama showed regular transfers. Pattern suggested a medical expense. By the time they obtained authorization to seize it, funds had moved through 3 more accounts. Dead end. The speed of transfers told investigators someone was monitoring for surveillance in real time. Third strategy, infiltrate the organization. Saw 2 undercover federal agents were identified within weeks. Both disappeared. Dead end. Now authorities knew CJNG had a counterintelligence system. By 2019, the DEA assessed CJNG was moving at least 1/3 of all drugs entering the United States. CJNG operated in all 50 American states and more than 40 countries. Net worth estimates, Eleno personally controlled $500 million minimum, potentially over $1 billion. CJNG total assets, $50 billion. February 2025, in Trump administration designated CJNG a foreign terrorist organization. First Mexican cartel to receive that designation. The tactical reality became clear. Standard cartel hunting methods weren't working. Then came June 26, 2020. 5 years after the helicopter attack, CJNG made a different kind of move. 6:35 a.m. Reform Avenue ambush from his hospital bed. Omar Garcia Harajudge posted on Twitter, named CJNG directly. Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum announced 12 suspects had been detained. E1 identified as Jose Armando, alias Vaca, a CJNG cell leader. Under interrogation, Vaca revealed the ambush had been planned for over a month. The team had surveilled Haru's route for 3 weeks. They knew his schedule better than his own security detail. Breakthrough. For the first time, authorities had detailed operational intelligence from inside a CJNG cell. Vodka's interrogation revealed CJNG cells received orders through a 3-tier communication system. My cell leaders never communicated directly with Elmeno. Orders came through regional coordinators. Regional coordinators received instructions from a single source. That source's location unknown. Intelligence began to map the architecture. Haruk recovered by 2026. He was Mexico's Secretary of Security. The man targeted in 2020 was coordinating a new approach. Not infiltration, not communications, not finances, medical intelligence. As early as 2019, Mexican intelligence confirmed Elmeno was suffering from serious kidney failure. Kidney disease doesn't care how many soldiers you command. It demands treatment, dialysis, medication, constant monitoring in the mountains. That's not easy to manage quietly. Intelligence discovered he'd constructed a private medical facility in El Liotao, municipality of Temple Catepec, brought in doctors under armed guard, paid them in cash to stay silent, threatened their families. As recently as February 2025, a Mexico security secretary publicly confirmed the kidney disease was ongoing. The vulnerability was obvious. Kidney treatment creates a schedule. A schedule creates patterns. Patterns can be tracked. February 28, 2025, Mexican Army forces seized Abraham Ora. The brother Necio went to prison for in 1992. Authorities now held leverage, and someone close to Elmano was about to make a mistake. If you're still watching, you're seeing something most people don't want to admit. That the biggest manhunt in the Western Hemisphere came down to tracking someone through their medical weakness. This is the kind of case that doesn't make headlines the way it should. Hit the subscribe button. There's more to this story than what you've been told. Sunday, February 22nd, 2026, before sunrise. To Paula Jaliscoco, Defense Secretary Ricardo Traviatio later disclosed how intelligence finally located him. Authorities had been tracking multiple associates, dozens of dead ends. And then they identified a woman, not a cartel member, not on any watch list, a romantic partner Elmeno trusted. Intelligence services began following a trusted associate of hers. For 3 weeks, surveillance teams tracked movements. Then the associate disappeared. 5 days of silence. Authorities believed he lost the lead. February 20th, the associate reappeared, escorted the woman to Tapulpa for a meeting with El Mencho. U.S. intelligence confirmed the exact location. The woman spent the night. He left Saturday morning. Special forces watched her leave, then finalized their plan. 4 a.m. Mexican Army Special Forces move into final positions. National Guard secures perimeter roads. Mexican Air Force assets overhead. The medical facility intelligence was accurate. The romantic partner tracking had worked. Everything investigators had pieced together over 6 years was converging. 4:47 a.m. Breach. CJNG fighters opened fire immediately. Gunfire echoed through the compound. A 34-minute firefight. El Mencho attempted escape through a rear exit with 2 bodyguards. The escape route matched the pattern from 2015. Rear exit. 2 bodyguards armed delay. Investigators watching from command recognized it instantly. The same tactic used after the helicopter attack. Special forces adjusted, blocked the secondary route. When the firefight ended, Elena was wounded and in custody. 4 CJNG operatives dead, 2 arrested. When the shooting stopped, soldiers moved through the compound. Armored vehicles, rocket launchers, launchers, including one identical to the model used in 2015 to down the military helicopter. And in the wreckage, Necio Ruben Oera Cervantes, El Mano, in custody. Standard protocol, transfer immediately to Mexico City. A military aircraft was prepared. The plan, federal custody, interrogation, the full weight of the Mexican justice system. He never arrived. Somewhere above the mountains of Jalisco, en route to the capital, Ignacio Oera Cervantes died from his wounds. Oera Cervantes, wanted for over a decade, died in custody. The same type of aircraft CJNG shot down in 2015. Defense Secretary Trivia confirmed death en route. Following death, the flight plan was redirected to Mexico City to preempt violent retaliation. In Mexico City, Omar Garcia Haruj opened his phone, posted on X, "Our recognition to the Mexican Army and Air Force." No speech, no press conference, on just a brief message from the man who had waited 6 years. Then Mexico started burning. Wave 1 immediate. Within hours, coordinated violence across 6 states. 21 highway blockades ignited across Jalisco. Vehicles set ablaze in Jalisco, Michoacan, Quima, Tamaulipas, Guanajuato, Aguas Calientes. Cities seal. Wave 2 escalation. By 3:00 p.m., Guadalajara shut down. Governor activated code red state of emergency. Public transport suspended, schools canceled, civilians ordered to stay home. Gunmen stormed the international airport, ran through terminals. Delta, Alaska, American Airlines, Southwest Air, Canada canceled all flights to Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. A city of 5 million people scheduled to host FIFA World Cup matches in June 2026 became a ghost town in an afternoon. Wave 3, strategic retaliation. By midnight, CJNG was hunting soldiers. Intercepted communications revealed an operator offering gunmen 20,000 pesos, over $1,000 for every soldier killed. The 6 separate cartel ambushes targeted National Guard convoys across Jalisco. 25 soldiers killed. 1 state attorney's office official killed. 1 presumed civilian woman killed. 30 suspected criminals killed in neighboring Michoacan. 4 more gunmen died. 15 security personnel wounded. A paratrooper rifle brigade tracked down the operator and killed him in a shootout. They seized nearly $1.4 million in U.S. currency. Defense Secretary Ricardo Travia Trejo wept publicly as he addressed the losses. Prison riot broke out in part of Vallarta. A jail guard killed. The U.S. State Department issued shelter-in-place advisory for American citizens in 5 states. By midnight, the country was watching the consequences unfold in real time. By midnight, every news channel was broadcasting footage of burning highways, empty airport terminals, and a ghost city scheduled to host the FIFA World Cup in 4 months. 25 soldiers killed in retaliation. The president, who said killing cartel leaders was wrong, had just overseen the killing of the biggest cartel leader alive. Wave a why the operation succeeded from Washington. White House spokesperson Caroline Mavette confirmed U.S. Operation Intelligence had provided support. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau called El Mencho one of the bloodiest and most ruthless drug kingpins in history. But the operation only happened because of coordination investigators had built for years. The romantic partner surveillance. U.S. satellites tracked movements. On the location confirmation, Joint Interagency Task Force counter, Cartel Intelligence. CBS News confirmed U.S. Navy SEAL instructors arrived in Mexico on February 15th, training the Special Forces team that carried out the raid. A U.S. defense official emphasized this was a Mexican military operation, so the success is theirs. But investigators on both sides knew the operation only worked because of that cooperation. President Claudia Sheinbaum had refused similar operations for 18 months. Her philosophy, the kingpin strategy doesn't work. Cutting off the head doesn't kill the body, it multiplies it. The Trump administration applied sustained pressure to produce visible results on drug trafficking. The manhunt investigators needed authorization. On February 22, 2026, Sheinbaum authorized the operation that produced the biggest kingpin kill in the history of the Western Hemisphere. Her public statement was careful. She applauded the military. She called for calm. She did not call it an assassination. The official position, it was a capture operation that turned fatal, a legal distinction that mattered enormously to her government. 3 Mexican soldiers were wounded in a Tapulpa firefight. All 3 survived. The man they captured did not. Wave B. Why the organization survives. Authorities immediately asked, what happens to CJNG? Within 48 hours of Eleno's death, intelligence observed CJNG cells operating as normal. In Guadalajara, a shipment of precursor chemicals arrived from China on schedule. In Michoacan, a territory dispute was resolved without Delment's input. In Chicago, street-level distribution continued without interruption. 2 days after the Tapulpa operation, a CJNG cell executed a rival Sinaloa operative in Tijuana. Business as usual, CJNG operations continued. Vonda Felbat-Brown of the Brookings Institution. Apart from the heads of the Sinaloa cartel, El Mencho has been the biggest prize for many years. A tremendous tremendous amount of violence is going to happen. Intelligence analysts identified a pattern. El Mencho had built a deliberately decentralized structure, regional cells operating with significant autonomy, designed so no single arrest or death could collapse the whole. The DEA says the gang is structured like a franchise business composed of around 90 organizations. The organization is too embedded, too diversified, too global to simply stop existing because its founder is dead. During the Topalpa operation, Mexican forces also captured Audius El Hardenro Flores Silva, CJNG's most powerful non-family member, responsible for meth production, cocaine transportation, weapons procurement. The DEA had a $5 million bounty on his head. Eleno's son, Ruben Oaguera, El Manchito, is serving a life sentence in the United States after conviction on drugs and weapons charges in March 2025. CJNG, with operations across 40 countries and 50 American states, has considerably more vacuum to fight over. The Sinaloa cartel is locked in its own internal power struggle between El Chapo's sons and the faction loyal to Ismael Elmo Zambada, who is in U.S. custody. Omar Garcia Harris, the man CJNG tried to kill in 2020, coordinated the operation that killed El Mano in 2026. The manhunt that began with a helicopter attack in 2015 ended with El Mano dying in a helicopter in 2026. 25 National Guard soldiers killed in retaliation. The case was closed. Investigators had spent over a decade hunting a ghost. Now, the ghost was dead. Then, 3 days later, a CJNG cell in Guadalajara received new orders. The message came from a phone number and no one recognized. The orders were specific, detailed, signed with El Mano's codename. The cell leader called the number back. It rang once, then disconnected. The operations continued without interruption. The source of orders using El Mano's codename remains unidentified. And if you made it this far, you know what to do. Hit the bell. There are more cases like this coming. Cases where the truth is darker than any fiction.